Coming up on today's show, is the Batman the best man?
We've got an interview with the Batman director Matt Reeves.
And we'll be going through what you can check out this week at Cineworld Cinemas. Hello and welcome to What's On at Cineworld Cinemas. I am Luke Owen.
I'm still the Batman. And Ollie Davis. My name's Ollie Davis. I'm not the Batman.
But you have now seen the Batman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say you haven't stopped talking about it since you saw it.
Yeah, and I'm annoyed that I can't talk about it more. Thank God producer Rich is here where we can share in the love together. What was the first thing I did this morning when I saw him?
You went over and high-fived him and said, Batman friends.
Yes, Batman buddy. Yes.
Okay, sorry, Batman buddy.
Honestly, I saw it Sunday night at the IMAX Leicester Square, Cineworld, and it was like one of the greatest days of my life because later that night, I was going to watch AEW Revolution. Mm-hmm. So it's like my two favourite things, three, comic books, movies, wrestling, all in this really long experience. And honestly, it was better than I thought it would be, and I had high expectations going in.
Yeah, because you and Dan last week were going through like the reviews for the movie that came out that were very, very positive about it. And so you had some fairly lofty expectations based on that. You're saying that not only were they met, they were exceeded?
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't just, so that Friday's episode, all those really positive reviews, that just started a freaking expectation snowball going down the mountain. Saturday, Sunday, it was all I could talk about. And when people weren't talking about it, I'd be like, man, I want to talk about the Batman.
It was your Poochie.
Yes, where's Batman? And as soon as it started, it felt like I was entering a new kind of superhero movie. What I like that DC have done, and I think now they've had the Joker and the Batman. It's really starting to, they've got a proper strategy now. They're not just trying to do Marvel work, because you're not going to beat Marvel at Marvel. They're not just incredible at it. They've got 12, 14 years of stuff fueling that empire. But what DC have finally realized is, hey, we've got these iconic characters. We can make sort of grown-up, really gritty, graphic novels. I would describe Marvel films as comic books. They're comic book movies. But just like in the 80s with DC, and when you've got like Arkham Asylum, Watchmen, Batman Year One, like these are graphic novels of movies now. Almost self-contained.
Sidebar, I hate that term.
What, graphic novels?
I hate the term graphic novel. I'm with Alan Moore on this. They're comic books, mate.
They are novels with pictures.
No, graphic novels was a term invented by journalists who said they didn't want to say, I enjoyed a comic book called Watchmen. So they had to invent a term called graphic novels to make it sound like it was a grown-up thing.
I think it was also DC marketing it as that.
Yeah.
So it was like an explicit thing to try and ease the transition of comic books into a more like adult.
I'm with Alan Moore. It's a comic book. But anyway, there was something you said to me when we were talking about it on Sunday after you'd seen it that kind of changed my view on the movie. Because I think people who've been watching What's On have kind of inferred from me that I have been down on the Batman. And I haven't said like, it looks bad, it looks anything like this, but I have not been as excited for the Batman as others have, because the trailers make it look like this is Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, but again. I was like, well, I've already seen those movies. And then I saw Zack Snyder try and do those movies quite poorly a few years ago. I love Matt Reeves, but I'm not ready to watch another person try and do it again. But something you said to me was like, it's not that. This is a film noir crime movie, basically. It's a detective story that just happens to be a Batman story, which is kind of like what I liked about Batman Begins, because it was, him actually being the world's greatest detective. And you saying that to me was like, oh, okay, well, now I've got a different approach to the movie, and that has made me way more interested in it, because that is something that hasn't been attempted with this franchise yet on the big screen.
I would say, yeah, rest assured, because this is unlike any other Batman movie that's come out in cinemas before. It's got more in line with the sort of animated films, although it's far more adult than those. I think I definitely sympathise with what you were feeling before, though, because how many directors have we been really excited about taking over big studios' IP? And that, like, you know, we're going to get the Chris Miller, Phil Lord, Han Solo movie.
Yeah.
But we've been burnt so many times or the David Ayer Suicide Squad. And by the time it comes out in cinemas, it is a copy and paste studio template with not a shred of identity of that director in place.
Yeah.
But what the Batman is, DC Warner Brothers have let Matt Reeves full, like, freedom on his artistic vision. Which is why, like, and you know, the complaint against Marvel movies recently is they have become a bit cookie cutter production line. This is an auteur movie in the best possible sense. But we're using freaking Batman.
Which I think is such a much more better selling point than what the trailers have kind of told us about this. Because a friend of mine texted me today with, you know, that bit in the Watchmen, in the comic book Watchmen, when Dr. Manhattan is just going through the dates. And it's just like, this is this day, I am this year's old. And it was just like, it is 1989, I'm 8 years old. I'm going to see a dark and gritty version of Batman. Mm-hmm. It is 2007, I am X years old. I am going to see a dark and gritty version of Batman. It is 2022, I am this year's old. And he was like, that is how I feel about this movie. And I say it's about being like, I don't think it is that. Despite the fact that sort of the marketing around it, that's not what this movie actually is. But my question to you is, Ollie, we have had Batman 66, Batman 89, Batman Returns, Mask of the Phantasm, Forever and Robin, Begins, Dark Knight, Rises, Batman v Superman. I don't want to say, I'm not going to add Justice League into there. And then the Batman. Maybe the Lego Batman as well. Where is it falling in your rankings? And is it the best man? Like, don't look at Producer Rich, because we know what Producer Rich thinks. Is this better than Batman? Is this better than Batman Forever?
That's the benchmark, isn't it? Honestly. And I've been, like, as soon as the movie finished, I was like, it's my number one, holy crap. But I'm well aware of recency bias. You know, I really love The Dark Knight, but I think on multiple rewatches, it's still really fun, but it is really a one-performance movie. I much prefer Batman Begins as a kind of actual film. But it's screw it. It's the best one. It is the best one. It's remarkable. And what it does is, it is not just that, actually action-wise, I don't think it has the best action. Although I haven't said that. Some sequences is the best action, but in a sort of really art house way. A lot of fight sequences take place in a pitch black corridor where the only illumination is guns firing. So you get this sort of staccato strobe-like effect in a fight sequence. It's incredible. But, it's beautiful. It's definitely the most well-rounded character. It's definitely got the most satisfying arc. I believe it is a distinct movie in itself, although it does a lot to set up future movies. I've seen that as a complaint, that people are like, oh, it just spends too long setting up the next one. I'm like, what movie are you watching? It's 3 hours long. A lot happens here in and of itself. And just, the soundtrack is incredible. The cinematography it feels tangible. Like you can feel the grain on the screen. It feels like it's the French Connection or something, the way it's shot. It's like a perfect blend of a lot of things for a normal non-genre movie, or a noir detective movie, psycho thriller movie. But it's also Batman.
Yeah.
Like, you will go large parts of the movie forgetting that the guy's dressed as a bat in front of you.
You described it to me as David Fincher's Batman.
Yeah, essentially. But no, that's fair. That's fair. It is. I guess Matt Reeves is kind of doing a David Fincher impression, but I think it has more emotional connection than Fincher could manage.
That's enough of us talking about the movie. What did Matt Reeves have to say about it when we sat down with him?
It's a character I've loved since I was a kid. Batman 66 was the year I was born. And I think what I really wanted to do was was to do a Batman that felt really different and leaning into this idea of the world's greatest detective, making this a detective thriller. The movie, of course, has all of the thrills and spectacle that you come to expect from a Batman movie. You have, of course, a Batmobile chase, and he's jumping off buildings in the wingsuit and doing all these things that hopefully feel really distinctive and fresh, but also this approach allows you to do a kind of thriller detective story that's actually, in some places, almost like a horror movie. So it's suspenseful, it's scary, and I think it's a really different version of Batman to any that have been done on the big screen. He certainly hasn't figured out even the reasons why he wants to be Batman. I think he thinks he's going to save the city, but he's really driven by this idea of being vengeance. And he's, there's a point where you start to question, wait a minute, was that the right path? And so I think the movie ends up being very emotionally provocative as well. And all of that was about creating sort of intimate relationships among the characters, among the actors. And so I think for me, having that depth of character and that depth of intimacy only heightens the experience when you get to the crazy spectacle. And hopefully that's the way audiences will feel.
Of course, The Batman is out in cinemas at the moment, available in IMAX, 4DX, ScreenX and Super Screen. But if you don't want to go and see that, there's also Cyrano, The Duke, Uncharted,
Dog, Death on the Nile, Sing Dos, and Belfast.
So we've got no new releases this week. I'm going to assume your recommendation of the week was The Batman last week.
It will probably be my recommendation for a few months. I don't think this film's going anywhere anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. It's Batman for me as well. I'm going to go see it this weekend and I'm very excited about it. Mother's Day is just around the corner. It actually falls on my wife's birthday, who is now also a mother.
What? Spread them out a bit.
Well, I know, yeah. So at least I now know what I can get her for Mother's Day from the kids. Because Cineworld have got a Mother's Day gift box. For just 23 quid, you get 2 2D cinema tickets and a voucher for some confectionery so you can treat your mum to some chocolates.
Lovely. Mums love chocolates.
That's what I've been told.
And my mum doesn't go to the movies enough, so I'm going to force her to go with this very present.
Go take and see The Batman.
Yeah,
Sit down, Mama. Watch The Batman, will you?
I haven't been to the cinema for a couple of years. Well, you're going back in the deep end. 3 hours, Batman. It's very violent at points, Mum. You love that.
Can I go watch Cyrano? No, you're going to watch The Batman and enjoy it.
I quite like the look of the Duke. I don't care, Mum. It's Batman.
Or you can take her to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Tickets are available now, available in IMAX or 4DX, which is probably what I'll take my mum to see, let's be honest.
She'll be sitting there going, you're still into this, Luke?
And we have an unlimited screening of Uma on March 21st. But that's all we've got time for on this edition of What's On at Cineworld Cinemas. Please do click the links in the video description down below and to find out more about that Mother's Day gift box. But until then, I have been Luke Owen.
Screw it, I'm the Batman.
And that's What's On.